Down for me, neighborhood tactics presented by State Farm.
So what's clever here is how Canyon uses his lack of, or the lack of vision that Doran has to be able to move back. And what was clever about that little play was they leveraged the fact that the Gragas had information on what he could see and where the Renekton was, which means the moment the Renekton moved out of the bush, he could then move in. He had this very clever path all the way through here, and then he just sat on the walls the entire time, unbeknownst to the Maokai, who thought that he was covering his top side of the jungle. And then what was very clever was Canyon not only clears this, but he's then going to move up from the walls up towards the Gromp, and he's going to keep the Gromp outside of vision. And Cadril, this is something you were talking about backstage that can just make sure the Canyon stays out of fog.
Yeah, it's much better to do Gromp here because of the Blast Cone and Maokai E. It gives you more time to secure it, and the ward on that bush means that Canyon can dictate the pace of this fight. If Peanut sees it, he can always smite it away because he knows he's coming close, and then he can farm him for stacks, push him out of his jungle. Has no smite now though, so he doesn't want to waste too much time, you know, wasting farming time. Just give it up, go back towards his Raptors. He's already wasted enough time and taken the camps away.
And plus, on top of that, he also got the attack off on the Maokai, so you start generating those more red souls so he can transform instantly in this game.
But this was a big misplay by Canyon, you have to admit. Even here, flash auto, flash W, flash Q, anything gets that kill, but he just screwed both of the combos up so that Doran got away. Now this will come back to bite them because Nuguri invests his flash there. That should be a kill, a push out, Renekton TP's out, Nuguri gets a free base. But what eventually happens is they eventually three-man top themselves here, Gen.G, and Nuguri investing that flash, not getting a kill, makes it so it just stings to give over first blood when it should have been yours.
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I know we joke between the NA and the EU side of this whole thing, but I have to wonder how impactful the missed kill there early on in the game was because of the return here in the overall outcome of the game.
I think what was crucial is how Chovy picked up that kill, right? And we start to see Chovy slowly taking control over this game. And what we saw was relentless aggression from Damwon. Typically, we see Canyon being very controlled at this year's World Championship in terms of how he plays around his lanes. But on the Kayn, he wanted to be in the face of Maokai as much as possible. But Gen.G, knowing that they had a Ryzen or Renekton, were willing to fight them in the early skirmishes, and they were often coming out on top.
And Kayn as a champion wants to be skirmish heavy. You want to force fights in the enemy jungle. Level 1's a very common one, is going over Raptors and taking it away, and then Eing over and smiting the red. Any early game action is great. This play from Damwon, I was just sitting there thinking, how the hell is this going to work out? The Renekton can 1v2. Canyon just sticks it. He has no E, no Q, no flash. He's just standing right next to the Herald, gets it, somehow doesn't die because Doran's already used his combo on Nuguri, uses the ult to go back towards the wall, and then as Doran flashes away, they make it a 1-for-0 in favor of
Gen.G. On the top side, we haven't even gotten to what was going on the bottom side of the map. A farm advantage for Gen.G that they capitalize on with a gank.
Exactly. It was actually disgusting how well Canyon was playing this and how big of a lead this Kayn was getting. But guess what? Your eyes not towards the bottom lane. The beginning of this game, they already had their own 2v2 advantage with a Yuumi scaling, and then when Maokai comes down to gank, to get them snowballing, you transition into the Dragons, the Drake control percent I talked about at the beginning of the day, and then you also get the benefit of having this giant AoE ultimate coming from Yuumi scaling for you later on. Chovy, though, I have to say, with our featured matchup, was one of the biggest stars, roaming to both sides of the map, creating so many plays for Gen.G.
Yeah, the Ryze also ulted down towards that bot tower a little bit later after this and picked up a kill, and I think Chovy was so pivotal in making sure this team could start snowballing. I think the triple kill on that bot tier 2 was what really pushed Gen.G ahead. There's two big takeaways for me from this game. Number one, Yuumi I feel like is now a permaban for Damwon, and number two, Dokdam and Kellen. This was the meta that they have wanted to avoid. Lucian, Nami, it's Zeri, Yuumi, Sivir, Lulu. These were the kind of things that they opted out of, and now the meta's changed to things like, you know, Varus and Jhin or whatever, maybe more of a supportive AD carry. I think this is not something they look very comfortable on.
No, definitely not.
Here's on the back, and there's Chovy. There's the flash twist in advance. He throws out the barrel to get rid of the Ryze, but there are so many problems. The body slam is pretty good, but still, it's going to be first blood, and it's delivered to Chovy.
야, 남이도 높여. 나이스. 야, 루시안 해볼게. 나이스. 야, 바텀 끝났어. 나이스. 야, 바텀 끝났다, 얘들아. 천천히 해봐.
Once again, extraordinarily low as the turret will be taken down. Bramble Tack is amazing. It's another triple kill for Chovy, and now Kellen is going to be locked down. Realm Warp to confirm it, and Gen.G will destroy Damwon.